Welcome to Jets Overtime, presented by SiriusXM. Eric Allen, Anthony Becht, Quincy Enunwa here inside the studio. The Jets fall today by a 24-9 score. Baltimore Ravens come to town, and the Jets did a lot of things right, especially early in this game. But I'll tell you what, Anthony, Lamar Jackson, 3 touchdown passes. Conversely, the Jets just 9 offensive points, and that's despite getting into plus territory on 5 possessions.
Yeah, I think for me, as I watched this game and unfolded early, I just felt like the trenches were kind of lost offensively. I really didn't like how the offensive line set the tempo of this game. And I'm not talking about Max Mitchell, I'm talking about the guys that are known commodities, I didn't think Lincoln Tomlinson, George Fant, look, it's a tough deal going back and forth. I get it, but I think they could have came out with a little more intention. And then just execution. I mean, Joe Flacco wasn't able to get a groove going. You have a dropped third down to stop a drive early in the game. You have a missed field goal. You have an interception over the middle of the field where your receiver falls down coming out of his break. You just can't do those kind of things. That's how you lose ball games. So, I think, as I just assessed it early on, it's about starting fast. And I think the biggest thing for me is they didn't start fast.
Joe Flacco had 59 pass attempts today. That's the most for a Jets quarterback, I think, going back to Mark Sanchez in 2011. When you have to put up the ball that many times, Q, that's not a recipe for success.
No, not at all. And I think they knew that going into the game, that they needed to run the ball. And I think they had a good start in the beginning, right? Like, we had one guy that almost got 100 yards rushing in the game. But then as you go along, I think we relied way too much on the pass, right? Like, there were some great plays in the pass game, but ultimately they just needed to find a way to get back into the rushing.
I thought it was interesting after the game, Anthony. We were just listening to head coach Robert Saleh, and he said he liked the juice, the energy he had that was displayed by the defensive side of the ball. But then you heard, conversely, Joe Flacco talk about the offense and said that electricity was missing. He wasn't quite saying that they were going through the motions, but they just didn't have that bolt of electricity today.
Yeah, I just, when you don't convert and get first downs, you don't get extra plays, you don't cross the 50 till later in the game. That'll keep a team flat. I mean, a lot of dink and dunk passes that were a lot of those big, those 59 passes were dink and dunks, most of them. Nothing really attacking down the field. I don't know if the tight ends really got involved, in my opinion, till late. I don't even count the Conklin stuff because that was, a wash up at the end of the game. So, look, I love tight end play. But 3 tight ends to start the first 2 series of the game. I don't know. Was it a weather thing? I get it. If that was a big thing, I was in the box, so I couldn't tell how bad the conditions were. But they came out, they ran the ball fairly, and that first run by Michael Carter, I mean, that got my juices going. So they weren't able to feed off that. I think it was just up front, the pass protection wasn't great. Just a little thing here and there. Just didn't really get Flacco in a groove, and he didn't really get the help early on. And I just feel like for this football team, it's all about this season at least, how they start football games. If they can start fast, that's how you get juice, right? Definitely. You get some plays going, but just leaning on the defense, the way they played this football game, they were able to keep it hanging. Eventually, something's going to happen good. It's Lamar Jackson, right? And once it did, the offense could not come back in and help.
If you would have told me before this game that the Jets would outrush the Baltimore Ravens, I would have said, sign me up, Jets are going 1-0. Right. The Baltimore Ravens and Lamar Jackson, who had averaged more than 180 yards on the ground over the past 3 seasons. They had 63 net rushing yards today, Q.
Yeah, and I think they ultimately knew they didn't need to do that, right? Like, I think if there was a situation where they felt like they really needed to run the ball, it would have happened. But the Jets just weren't giving them opportunities to feel like they needed to run the ball. Like, anytime that they needed to get a big play, they had it in the pass game. And so when you have those opportunities, why would I go to the run game when I know I can throw the ball well? And so, unfortunately, when you have, 0 for 8 on third down with the Jets, that's why we threw the ball so many times. We just couldn't convert, right? We couldn't move the ball, so you have to throw the ball more. And then the Ravens just felt like, we don't need to run it. We can throw the ball as well.
And, with that defensive play versus the Ravens rush, I mean, Quinn Williams was eating up the rookie center, Tyler Lindenbaum.
Yep.
I saw that during the game. Quan Alexander was flying around. Jordan Whitehead was downhill. I mean, these guys were doing some good things. But listen, man, it's three phases, right? You have to complement each other. And, I just felt like offensively, I was expecting a little more today. And I think across the board, everybody's a little disappointed about that execution and maybe the way they came out. So we'll see what happens. But, again, I will say this, right? It's only one game. Let's not get the panic button. Let's not hey, the season. That's not how it works in this. It's a long season. And, we've seen this thing unfold with other teams. We'll look across the league. A lot of different teams that were supposed to play well didn't. So, again, the Jets will bounce back. That'll be great. But for today's performance, probably not what you want from an opening game.
2 of 14 on third down overall. Obviously, that's not going to get it done. There's a couple plays there early in the first half that stood out to me. One was a play-action pass to Elijah Moore, the explosion play. And then another one was a 3rd and 10 where Garrett Wilson showed just dynamic he can be with the ball in his hands. He only get 9 yards, and the Jets forced to punt. But what I'm thinking when I'm watching that, and the Jets are struggling offensively, they got to keep on finding ways to get those to the ball.
Yeah, definitely. And I think you also saw a couple plays. I think that Corey Davis had a play. They were spreading the ball around, right? And that's a positive, right? It's something to build on. We have that in our repertoire. It's just about getting back to the run game, right? There were so many opportunities. I don't think the Ravens shut it down that much. I think that we just kept trying to push the pass, and I feel like that's what really kind of messed us up there.
Yeah, Michael Carter today, fellas, 4th career game with 100 yards from scrimmage. He talked to our own Ethan Greenberg after the game. Here's that.
Here with running back Michael Carter. Michael, it felt like the offense flashed at times, but couldn't really put something together for 4 full quarters. How do you go about that for next week?
Yeah, I think it's just watching film, man, and learning. We're in a learning stage right now of the season where, we're finding our identity and we're learning each other, and but we're balling at the same time. We made some really good plays today. There's times in the game where there's parts of the game that are really important, more important than other parts. And so just honing in on those things like third downs and, when we're in the score zone and when we cross the field, strike zone, red zone, things like that, and, keeping the ball off the ground.
From your perspective, can you just talk about the importance of third down and how beneficial it is for an offense when you're thriving in that situation?
Yeah, it's super great because, we get more plays, and that's the main thing. We get more chances to stay on the field, and, a lot of credit to Baltimore, man. They do a lot of good stuff. It comes back to us. It comes back to us. We just got to be better and communicate better, and because we got playmakers. We have such a talented team, and so it's hard to lose games like that because that we're built to last. So, but we'll get back to it. I'm not really worried about this game. I mean, I am just because I want to win every game, but we'll learn from it. I'm not tripping.
From a rushing perspective, yourself, Breece Hall, you guys had some good numbers. Mm-hmm. How encouraging is that, and how do you build off of this performance into next week?
Yeah, I think that a lot of our runs were, they block for 5, we go get 10. And I think that is what happened today, and I really feel confident in our line, like more than I ever have. And, maybe any line. Regardless of who we move around. I think that Max Mitchell did a good job today, man. Being matched up with a perennial Pro Bowl, and he did a good job. You know what I mean? So, Justin Houston will be in the Hall of Fame, and a lot of credit to him, and he lays his life on the line every week. And I think Max did a good job against him, and other guys.
And then lastly here, Michael, as someone who's on this team last year, obviously you're a big part of this team now. How do you turn the page from last year, this first game, and start to build the confidence that you guys are the talented team you believe you are?
Yeah, I think it's self-reflection first, and just understanding that we are a team that can go win games, not just not losing, right? And I think that we're close to flipping that, and we got some great leadership on this team. And despite what anybody says, we have leaders and we have talent, and all we need to do is just tweak our mindset just a little bit. Because we're on the right track. We lost today. It's not the end of the world. But there's a sense of urgency. But it doesn't change from last week. We was urgent as hell last week. We just didn't win today. So I think one thing that the New York media does is make a big deal out of one thing. Right? That's your job. But I think that we'll be okay. So.
Awesome.
Shots at y'all, but whatever.
I appreciate the time, Michael. Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
The final today at MetLife Stadium was Baltimore 24, the New York Jets 9. Look at that total yardage discrepancy. The Jets with 104 more yards from scrimmage today. Joe Flacco, as we talked about before, put it up in there 59 times, and the Jets defense was all over the place. Really good job by the front and the linebackers holding the Ravens to 63 yards rushing. Despite all those stats going in the Jets' favor, they lose by 15 points. It's Telestration time on Jets Overtime, presented by SiriusXM. Eric Allen and Quincy Enunwa inside the studio. Jets didn't get the result they wanted today against the Baltimore Ravens, but some encouraging play by their rookies nonetheless. Let's start with Ahmad Sauce Gardner.
Yes, Ahmad Sauce Gardner, man. He earned his nickname Sauce today. He made some great plays in the backfield. We got a cover 3 right here, right? So cover 3, you got to make sure you're covering all 3 parts of this field. They do a great job by the Ravens of sucking the defense up with this play action, and Sauce gets caught. But guess what he does, man? He recognizes the play, recognizes that this guy is getting out and points. If you see it here, he's pointing to his defense to let him know. And then you see that sub 4.4 speed to get back in transition, right? Get back in phase. Watch him. And no panic, because at the end, a lot of guys like to panic here. But what he does is he waits until the tight end puts his hands up, and he puts his hands right through. Great pass deflection.
All right, and that's against Mark Andrews, one of the top tight ends in the National Football League. Also, we know Sauce Gardner can play man press coverage effectively. This was in zone, so very encouraged by that. Let's flip to the offensive side of the ball. Breece Hall, unfortunately, had a fumble late in that second half, but here he's doing damage behind a fellow rookie, Max Mitchell.
Exactly, and Max Mitchell not afraid of the lights here, man. So you see him here. He's lined up against Patrick Queen, a guy that's been balling this game, was all over the field, but he's not afraid of him. Makes first contact, and then what I love here is he does a great job of getting his butt in the hole right here. And it's a great lane for Breece to break a tackle, and then we're gonna watch this burst, right? Watch him run past everybody to get this first down, and you see that great burst that we looked at.
Great patience and vision by Breece Hall there. Let's flip it to the defensive side of the ball again. Jermaine Johnson tore it up in the ACC last year at Florida State. He gets a sack of Lamar Jackson in his first professional game.
And his first sack is always a great one. I love this right here because he's got a high motor on him. You see him here, he's gonna run the hump. Tight end's in the way, but he knows he has to keep going because the quarterback will always suck up in the pocket, but he does a great job of continuing to work. Watch him here. He's working, man. He's working. He's working. He's working. Almost gets a sack, but guess what? I don't give up. I'm off my man. Let me finish this play and watch the excitement because he knows this is his first sack and it was a great play by him.
Speaking of finishing, the Jets are going to have to get the ball in the hands of Garrett Wilson Moore, the number 10 overall selection out of Ohio State. Man, what an effort on this catch in the first half.
Yes, and he doesn't get the first down, but man, we love to see this, man. I'm hoping that they give him more opportunities because he's showing he's not afraid of the lights either. So right here, we're going to watch this. One thing that I want to point out is that the Ravens did a great job of disguising, right? And with an older quarterback, you think that he's not going to get caught, but it's hard. When you do something like this, it's never easy to read. So we're going to have what looks like a cover 3, but the Ravens do a great job right here. You see him. This safety's coming down. This safety's going up to replace him. So it's going to automatically confuse our quarterback. There's great pressure as well. He's confused. So he's like, okay, well, let me just throw this ball away. But what I love to see here is Garrett Wilson is not giving up on this play. He's making sure that he's in phase for the quarterback and makes the catch. And now watch him here. This is what we love to see. Makes one guy miss. Makes another guy miss. And almost gets that first down. The only thing I would say here is maybe just dive forward right here and maybe we can get this first down.
Great lesson from Quincy Enunwa there, but I'll tell you what, better days ahead for the Jets and all of their rookies, as we just saw. Here's the upcoming schedule for the New York Jets. They're going to stay in the AFC North for the foreseeable future. Going to Cleveland next week to face the Browns. The Browns were in Carolina today. They took down the Panthers in a tight one. Speaking of tight games, the Cincinnati Bengals lost at home in overtime to the Pittsburgh Steelers. And the Jets will see the Bengals in Week 3, hosting them for a second consecutive year. Then they will be in Pittsburgh to face the aforementioned Steelers, who captured a big-time road victory today. And then finally, Week 5, division play gets underway at MetLife Stadium as the Miami Dolphins, who impressed thoroughly today in a takedown of the New England Patriots down in South Florida, will come to town. One of the best performers for the New York Jets today was DJ Reed in his first outing on the outside for the green and white. 1 interception, 1 forced fumble, 1 PD. Caroline talked to him after the game.
Here with cornerback DJ Reed. DJ, forced fumble today and an interception. What'd you see on that interception that allowed you to get it?
Man, I just bailed, and they had a route beater, or they thought they had a route beater, and I just felt the sense of urgency from the one receiver, so I just stayed with him, and he threw it up, and I'm gonna get that every time they throw it up.
The defense did a good job of containing Lamar in the first half. What was working for you guys?
We just kept it simple, man, stuck to our script, and we just kept balling, man. Everybody running to the ball. Can't be single tackles on Lamar Jackson. He's a dynamic quarterback, so we just did a good job communicating and just running and hitting.
One NFL game under your belt, full game. How do you guys take this and prepare for Cleveland Week 2?
Yeah, we're going to learn from this film. We gave up 3 explosives as a defense, so we could definitely be better on that. 2, I feel like we're on us, and 1, it was a good catch, a good throw. So we clap it up, we line it up again, but we definitely could grow from this game.
You said those 2 that were on you. Do you feel like this game, score-wise, showed an accurate representation of how good this defense is?
No, not at all. 24 points or whatever they had is too much. Yeah, I would say they got 7, and the other 2 are on us. So, but credit to the Ravens, they won, but we definitely could be better.
Awesome. Thanks for your time, DJ.
Thank you.
Good stuff there from Caroline Hendershot and New Jets cornerback DJ Reed, Eric Allen, Anthony Becht, and Quincy Enunwa here inside the studio. You are watching Jets Overtime presented by Sirius XM. Reed just talked about it, Anthony. The long plays, the 2 pass plays, he thought the touchdowns, referring to Lamar Jackson, the long touchdowns. He said, we made mistakes on it. The one play was Duvernay just beating Breece Hall. And sometimes it's going to happen.
Yeah, but he was still there.
Yeah.
He could have made a play on the ball. It wasn't like he smoked by him. He recovered. I mean, you have to have the awareness of where the ball is and get yourself in a position to make a play. I didn't think the other ones were terrible. Lamar Jackson put some good balls out there, and they made some plays. But, and we've been talking about all this about the first half. But honestly, when you look at this game, it's 10-3 at halftime. All right, you make some adjustments. All right, you come out in the second half, and you find a way to, get the run game, the pass game, get going. You come out, you go punt, you get sacked because you get sacked. Second series, you get sacked again, and then you fumble in the Breece Hall fumble, and then you go down in downs. It's not the best way to come out when you're starting the second half of a game when you basically did nothing right. Nothing was going your way in the first half. You're still able to be in a 10-3 football game. So I just think when you're talking about, those kind of things, you don't know how games are going to play out, right? You never know how things are going to go. You're down a touchdown. Like, okay, let's go, man. Like, let's correct it. So that's probably a little more disappointing than maybe the start because as much as was going on with them early in the football game, it was still a ball game coming out of the half.
What do you make Lamar Jackson's 3 touchdown passes, the 2 to Devin Duvernay? Duvernay had played 32 career games entering this ball game, had 2 touchdowns. Of course, he had the 2 today. And then Rashad Bateman got loose there. It seemed like a mix-up in the coverage.
Yeah, exactly. It's unfortunate, like he was saying earlier. I think one of the passes with Breece Hall, it was a great play, right? There's not much you can do there. As a receiver, you want those type of situations, and as a DB, you want to try to make those plays as much as possible. Unfortunately, we didn't get that. The other 2, they were also great plays. I think ultimately there's breakdowns in the coverage. You saw that last really deep throw Lamar had, and you just want to make adjustments better going forward. So I think they're going to have to watch a lot of film, make sure they know what happened there. On some plays, you're not going to be able to make those plays, but ultimately, when it's a coverage play, you got to make sure you're in the right position.
Yeah, and I was referring to Breece Hall, of course, there in the first half. I keep on getting these guys mixed up, Bryce and Breece. What do you make of the Jets having to make their own momentum? Meaning we start pointing to what happened in the first half where Flacco hits Elijah Moore, sizable gain. Next play, holding penalty on Lawrence Cager. Next play, You have Cager falls down, interception Marcus Williams. Before you know it, it's 3-0 Baltimore. Then the Jets have an opportunity. Greg Zuerlein misses a field goal. Then you have the pass interference penalty that actually preceded the touchdown from Lamar Jackson to Duvernay that gave them a 10-3 lead because they're in position to score because there is a penalty. So, that's the thing that I think was killing Robert Saleh about this is, hey, we had opportunities, but we also had some self-inflicted wounds that you just can't have in the National Football League.
Well, yeah, and, let's mention Lawrence Cager because they did start out in 3 tight end set. This guy, I don't think anybody thought this guy was going to come in. He's been a great story. But look, I know exactly what Coach Ron's going to tell him. They're like, listen, he's going to pull him aside. Like, look, you got a chance to go out there. You can't fall down in the route. You can't hold. You got to be able to be accountable out there. He's put all this work in. Well, now you're in the show now. Let's go. So you don't have time to have growth and wait on guys to get things done. This is a team that has high expectations, in my opinion. I think, with the pieces they put in, yeah, of course, things take time. And when Zach comes back, that they'll be able to kind of clean things up there. But one thing I want to go back, who set the schedule up? Why are we playing?
There we go.
AFC North, 4 straight games? Like, that makes no sense. Who else is doing this in the league? They got to play another division.
Hey,
every team in their division. It's like, it's not that it's hard. It's just like, to me, it's goofy as heck. I don't know. I just,
take
I
it
feel
easy.
like.
Do you listen to the official Jets podcast? We had Mike North on from the National Football League. We talked about it.
It's 10,000 different combinations, and that's how it falls. Right. It just doesn't. I don't know. I don't. AFC North to me is you gotta. It's not sexy, but I mean it's just a weird deal how they got to play those.
So you like the Dolphins schedule where you're hosting New England in Week 1, huh?
Well, it's a divisional game.
Yeah.
It's a little different mentality, but you're like, okay, are we in the AFC North or what? I mean, it's just like it's crazy.
It's just a lot of little things that I think happened today. Getting back to the first half, we were watching, and Corey Davis had a good game, strong game for the Jets. 6 receptions, 77 yards. It was a 3rd down play where maybe Flacco, if he throws that ball again, he's putting it a little bit more out in front, but at the same time, that's one of those ones that get.
Go ahead. You got to catch it. Like,
yeah, I'm just saying that's an example of the plays that were out there,
and that's what Flacco's talking about. Like, hey, we talk about it how we're good in this stuff, and we got to go do it, right? So, Corey Davis got to make that all day. He had a good game today, but that's the play I remember. That's the play I would remember if I was in his position because that's where you get the extra snaps, the extra downs, and now everything unfolds differently. The whole pattern of the game goes. So yeah, it's one play, but those, when you're talking about starting fast and you want to go out there and do it right, that didn't change the entire game. But Corey knows that. It's just, he did play well today, caught the ball well after that. But we need that. That's the difference, right? That if the Jets want to go that way, that's the difference. Yeah. That's one of the plays that's the difference.
Right, and we talked about it in pregame. The Jets did so well. They started games pretty fast, or they actually started games really slow in the preseason, and they finished strong, right? And so I was hoping that they would continue that, right? Finish strong. They didn't start very fast, but they needed to finish strong, and they just couldn't do that today.
Let's flip it to the defensive side of the ball. It's going to get lost here in the shuffle because when you score 9 points, you go 2 of 14 on 3rd down conversions. It's not good enough, but I was very much encouraged by what I saw for the most part from this unit. The defensive line played well. The linebackers, C.J. Mosley, Quan Alexander, Quincy Williams, they were making impact plays, and they were flying sideline to sideline.
Well, those 3 guys are going to feed off each other because it's almost like an internal competition because they all want to get to the ball. Quan is really, for a guy that's been banged up the last couple of years, he looks good. I mean, he's flying around, he's hitting guys, and it's exciting to see. CJ, we know we're going to get double digits out of him every single game, so you know what to expect out of him, and that's great. But Quincy obviously doing his thing. Those 3 guys look really sharp, and they're going to be big. I mean, you're not going to have DBs lead a team and tackle, which is great. Those guys are going to be there at the second level, and you got defensive linemen that can hold up guys so that they can come downhill and make plays.
Yeah, you mentioned Quincy before, and Jermaine Johnson gets in there with the sack, playing his first game in the National Football League. I saw penetration from Michael Clemens, the 4th-round pick as well. We saw John Franklin Myers getting that interior pressure. What I might be most excited about if I'm a Jets fan over everything defensively, though, is what possibly you have with this cornerback combination of DJ Reed and Sauce Gardner.
Definitely. And it's unfortunate, that the Ravens had such a great tight end, because on that touchdown pass with Bryce Hall, that's where Sauce would have been, right? And that's where we might have seen where Sauce could have used even more of his technique. We saw that it might have been somewhere in the third quarter. He made that play against Mark Andrews, right? And it probably would have been that same situation there. He would have made a play on the ball because he has those skills that Bryce Hall just didn't have in that situation.
Max Mitchell made his first start in his first game in the National Football League today. The Jets ran it pretty well, especially in the first half. For more on the run game on both sides of the ball, let's go back to the stadium. Here are Caroline and Ethan.
Thanks, EA. Okay, Ethan, the score today, 24-9, not really indicative of the kind of game the Jets running backs had and the Jets rush defense had. So let's start with the defense. What did you see out of them?
Well, anytime that you play Baltimore, you got to start with Lamar Jackson, and he only had 17 rushing yards today. The Jets overall limited Baltimore to 63 yards on the ground. That's very impressive considering that the Ravens' rush offense ranked third in the NFL last year. Of course, no J.K. Dobbins for this one. Kenyon Drake seemed to be the main running back out of the backfield, and this Jets team held Baltimore to 11 rushing yards total in the first half. That's Baltimore's lowest output since 2016, so the result not what the Jets wanted, no doubt about it, but there are some positives to take away, the rush defense being one of them.
And that rush defense was why that score was so close going into halftime. Okay, but reversely, the offensive line on the Jets had some shuffling this week, but the running backs actually proved to overcome that. What did you see from the running back group?
Well, Michael Carter, the first carry of the game, like 19 yards up the left side, and we spoke to him after this one, and he said that he has absolute confidence in the offensive line despite the shuffling. And Max Mitchell started at right tackle his first regular season game. He shouted him out. Michael Carter shouted him out, said he did a good job, and Carter averaged 6 yards a carry. He had 10 total carries, 60 yards. He's multifaceted out of the backfield. So I think what you've seen in this Jets rushing offense, they want to run the ball. The offensive line chemistry is definitely not what the green and white want it to be, but this, again, a step in the right direction and something to build on for next week against Cleveland.
Right, exactly. I think those flashes are really good steps in the right direction, so we'll see in week 2 in Cleveland. Thanks, EA.
You're watching Jets Overtime presented by SiriusXM. Eric Allen, Anthony Becht, and Quincy Enunwa. Hey, guys, special teams plays a factor in this as well. We talked about Zuerlein, unfortunately, missing a field goal there in the first half. He missed an extra point at the end of the game. And then a momentum turner there early in the second half with Braden Mann's 20-yard punt, because that sets up the short field. And before you know it, we're talking about a one-score game. Now it's 17-3.
It's a buzzkill. I mean, it's just a long line of just kickers. It's just like we don't want to talk about kickers anymore, right? Now it's just one kick. It's not gonna make or break anything. I believe in this guy. He should be good for the season. But special teams is an area where you want to talk about returns, big returns, Berrios, all these kind of positive things. But yeah, 20-yard punts, can't have it. I mean, it's you got to have the field position throughout the game, and then when you get your opportunity to kick field goals, like you got to have it in a close game like that. The momentum, the way you can swing it back and forth. It's just big, and he's got a leg. It wasn't like that thing was, too long for him to make. But when you're going out there and it's a close game like that, the energy level's kind of a little bit flat. You kind of need something to go off of. That could have been something that jolted the team a little bit.
So next week, the Jets go to Cleveland. They face a Browns team who beat the Panthers today, 26-24. Q, they are going to be challenged. That rush defense who played well today, they're going to be challenged big time next week. This is a Cleveland Browns team that rushed for 217 yards in Carolina today. Obviously, led by Nick Chubb. He had 141 yards. Kareem Hunt pitches in 46 yards. So, totally different offense.
Definitely. And I think it's important for the offense to our offense, to make sure that they're putting them in great positions. Because I think that was the biggest thing, right? Not only were the special teams kind of messing up, but also the offense just couldn't get it going. And so when you do those type of things, you really put the defense in a hard position because now they have to defend a short field. And whenever that happens, it's really tough. I like what the defense did in the beginning, though, because there were a few series where they were able to get some stops, hold the Ravens to a field goal. So, you just want to keep that going. You want the offense to continue to just make plays so that they don't have to be in those positions too many times.
got to set the tone up front in this game. I mean, look, I can tell how a game's going to. I just in my career, just knowing how, like, you watch a couple series, I just like, man, it's not going to happen up front, and it just wasn't going. Like, Joe's going to need some time. He can make plays for this football team with his arm, with his mind, getting the ball out. He knows where the ball's supposed to go, okay? But he's going to need a little time doing it. And he did a decent job trying to extend and do different things, but he's not Superman. He just can't do that. So they're going to have to find a way to shore it up. If they can do that, if they can shore it up front, continue to have the running game like they did today, because the running game was a big positive. You just couldn't do it as much because the score got out of hand later on in the game. Now you got something. You're cooking. You can work and complement off the pass and the run. So that'll be big, I think, in this game. That'll be something for me, at least the first couple series, where you'll know, like, okay, that was something that they made a statement about because they got to come out and do it.
Yeah, and totally different environment. I mean, this week you're playing at home against the Baltimore Ravens. Next week you're going to Cleveland. And, yes, they won't be playing with Deshaun Watson for the first 11 weeks. But they're thinking, hey, listen, if we can kind of stay a little bit above 500, we can make a run late, and that place is going to be wild. That's their home opener next week.
Right, exactly. So, it's up to the Jets to really bring their A game, and I mean start fast and finish fast, right? Like we talk about all gas, no brake, right? Well, we need to make sure that we're not hitting the brake in the beginning. It needs to be all gas from the beginning to the end.
And how do you do that? Like Q was talking about that throughout the summer too.
It's execution.
Yeah.
When you have positive things happening because you go out there, you can't have 2 or 3 guys not executing. You can't give up a sack because it's poor footwork or you didn't do the alignment or the technique properly. You have to execute on those things, and when you do, that's when you see good things happen. We've seen it last year. We saw a lot of good things happen with the Jets over the season. Just wasn't done at a consistent clip. This is the year where you got to kind of have a little more consistency. Yes, there are some things going on up front. Nobody's making excuses. And listen, it's not easy to play 2 different sides like George Fant's going, and he's going to be fine because he was a baller last year for this offensive line. But I think overall, as a unit, they have to play better together, and hopefully another week of practice watching this film, that'll kind of get the urgency set, and I look forward to seeing them playing. I think you'll see what they're made of. That's kind of what the makeup is of these guys anyway. They're all got a lot of Pro Bowlers on that front line. You got guys that have played a lot of games. They're going to come out there and set the tone. I got no question. So if they do that, this is a game that they can go and win.
How big of the experience was this just for that rookie class who you broke down very well on the telestration? We're talking about Sauce Gardner, who I thought he was really solid in his first professional action. Breece Hall, ups and downs, no doubt about it. And then you got Garrett Wilson, who I think we all want to see if he can get the ball in his hands a little bit more. And Jermaine Johnson comes up with a sack today.
Yeah, definitely. I think, I tell guys that I coach all the time that, like, you want your confidence to be internal, but ultimately, like, getting that experience is going to really boost your confidence, right? And so as a young guy, when you get that much play time, when you get in chances to make plays, hearing the crowd, oohs and ahs, all those different things, you're going to feel a lot more comfortable in your position. You're going to be ready to go. And so I think this second game, they're going to have that and the win behind their sails.
Yeah, and to me, Garrett's a guy that has the it factor. Yeah. I get it. We're in a generation where we don't want to overload rookies sometimes.
Right.
But listen, it was just a different world when I was coming out. Like, I was into the fire. Like, right now, you got to go do it. Well, he's rated. Let him go, man. Just unleash him. Let him do his thing. Obviously, with the weather coming out in the 3 tight end set, I don't know if that was something that was set in stone. It may have been a situational thing, but man, waiting a couple series for him to come in, like, I want to get him in the game now. He's electric, man. He's a real one. Like, he's a guy that you can do some things with, and I think as we get through this season, we're going to start seeing it. I'm excited for him.
Despite outgaining the Baltimore Ravens by 104 yards, the Jets lose by a 24-9 count at MetLife Stadium. What we all think they can do, what we want to see next week is, can the Jets take the next step, start fast, and be competitive in a game in the fourth quarter where one is up for grabs. But 17-game season, this is just a start, and we'll have to see what happens from here for Anthony Becht and Quincy Enunwa, and a cast of thousands here at One Jets Drive, plus Caroline Hendershot and Ethan Greenberg, of course, from MetLife Stadium. We're signing off.